Welcome to Ensuring Success, the podcast that takes you on a journey to unlock the keys of achieving not just fleeting victories, but sustainable and fulfilling success. This is Ensuring Success. Well, Brian, thank you for joining Andy and I today, and we're going to jump right in with our staple question, that is, how do you ensure success?
Yeah, how do I, that's a great question. I just say fundamentally in life, I love this thought. I love strategic grinding. All right. I was at a basketball game last night. A young man who was terrible all of a sudden was like an all-star, and he'd been going and working really hard. And after the game, I told him, I said, man, isn't that a great lesson for life? It's amazing. You went from awful to good, right? And almost great because you've been working with the coach on Sunday afternoons. And now you've been strategically grinding, and it shows up, and it never disappoints you. Andy and I, we've told the guys many times, you know what we find works? Working, right? And so that's not totally true, but if you'll be a strategic grinder, you can ensure success in America at anything you do. It's actually one of the great gifts of living in America, in my opinion.
So let's tell everybody what you do and what your role is with our organization.
Well, I'm one of the partners at Blueprint Consulting Group. What we do around the country is help independent insurance agencies, typically, it's not always independent insurance agencies, grow their top line revenue. And if you think about, and it's actually what I think Houchens has this really secret sauce on, the ability to hire, validate, and ultimately grow producers, to grow any organization. And we started seeing that's the magical thing. And then if I look at what Houchens is actually taking to the next level, be able to place them in the right team environment. And so just working with Andy and the group to say, okay, how do we bring in talent? How do we validate them? And what's the best place to put them inside a team network to make sure that they become a valuable asset instantly? Most organizations, it takes 3 years to have a producer become an asset for the company, but you guys do it so well. And so I just kind of play a small role with Andy and the team to make sure they bring success within the first 6 months.
Okay. You know, Brian, I think we probably owe it to everyone to at least explain our relationship and how we came about, and a little bit about you. They know a lot. They know some about me, and how that relationship has become so special through our years. I think it's 8 years now, as I recall it. But do you mind giving a little bit of background about Brian Jenkins, about the LSU football player, about the family man, and just, give us a little background there about who it is and who you are? I think that's a big part of the story, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, thank you, Andy. So I have, back in leather helmet days, I did play college football, but I don't associate much with that. All I did was get to LSU and realize, man, I'm not very good. So that was my story, which is a very humbling way to start your life, to go from a big fish in a small pond to being a minnow that got eaten up every Saturday in the SEC. And, actually, it's funny, coming out of that, left an identity crisis, actually, from a football player to a lost man. And it actually sent me probably down a 15-year journey of just being lost, not knowing who I was, not knowing what success looked like. And just through a real rock bottom moment in my life, refound my faith. Actually, I'd say I found it for the first time ever in my life in a real way, and just kind of became, I want to live my life for the kingdom of God. I want to live my life. Everybody has a faith that they get into. Mine is a follower of Jesus, and just started realizing my wife and I, she's my second marriage, 3 kids from my first marriage. Her and I have 2 biological. We adopted 4. I have been senior pastor of churches. I'm doing that again bivocationally. And I really say to all that kind of what that journey became to me. And it shows so well in serving insurance agencies or any organization. Jesus said, I came to serve, not to be served. And you just start finding, if you will serve your fellow man and anywhere you go. And so vocation to me is location. And no matter where I am, there's an opportunity to serve people. And really, that's what life's about. And it's actually why our partnership with Houchens has been so great. At the very top, Andy and all the executive team, they're servant leaders. I mean, they're going to be the first one to pick up trash. They're going to be the first one to do the dirty work. And so we just had that alignment, and we started finding, if we will serve the organization around us, if we'll serve these producers, and we just became like-minded instantly. And I think every other week we get on the phone with, 18 to 20 unvalidated or recently validated producers, and with the idea of let's just serve them. And then we notice that before long, they also become servants, and it just becomes a story. And so through my personal journey, it just kind of became that my job, and I think it's important for everybody that has a job, that does it fit your core value? Can you show up at work and just be an extension of who you are? Because if not, Andy, it's just going to go, and you're going to watch the clock, and you can't wait to get out of there. But if I'm just doing an extension of who I was created to be, there's never a day that feels like work. And I feel like that's been really the heart of our connection and our relationship organizationally and individually.
And, I think that really opens up our discussion today with Natalie's guiding us along here. But, thinking about that 8 years that we've been part, and, a big part of that has been the revenue growth that we've had there and the success we've had in business. But honestly, some of the best rewards from that has been the development of those unvalidated producers into being much more than just successful businessmen and women, but really being genuinely successful in life. And that call, which is a special event, which is hard to put into words, Natalie gets to participate in that with us, which has been awesome. We've made that recent addition so that you can understand that. But something special happens on that. And it's hard to put into words, and I really think that's what we're talking about here today. So I think my first point I would make, and Natalie, guide me if I'm going down the wrong direction, but I think from a business perspective, and we start out with our standard question of ensuring success. I think ensuring success is not just about your employees. I think it's about who you associate with. And in this case, you're an outsourced company that we met with, that we had a void that we wanted to try to fill, and really kind of came as a referral. And when the referral wasn't even to you, it was to your brother. And so we got the seconds. And
This is all that's left in the litter.
It's all that's left that was out there because of a contractual issue, we couldn't deal with number one. We got number two. But no, I at the end of the day, I think that it was definitely a God thing that we all came together and see the impact it's made. So let's just talk a little bit about the financial success that we've had from a revenue perspective. 8 years ago, we were a $50 million organization, and since then we've grown. We'll break $100 million this year. So we've doubled in size since our relationship started, and you've been a core component of that, especially development of our younger producers that are there, or younger and tenured producers are there. And man, I think that's what I'm most proud about, and really what I wanted to talk about this today, that it doesn't always have to be the best hires. It has to be who we relate in a business with, and who we connect with, and why we connected, and why that was so important. So and I think that outsourced can help improve the values of our organization, and not just looking internally but externally in that perspective of it. So it has been a blessing from that perspective, and a great partnership, and in addition to a friendship that's evolved from there. But I think we got to ask you a little bit about, I think, Nashville. What a unique success. We have an unbelievable leader there, Mike Boz, who's participated in these podcasts in the past. But talk about what took place there and the success of truly the sales coaching journey. I think that's a great story for folks to hear.
Yeah, I tell you, as an organization, we always look at it. Sometimes you go in and you have great success, and sometimes you don't. And I think it always, if you want to put your finger on success, it always comes from partnering, right? I would say that if anything, an outside vendor a lot of times is fuel or a catalyst that needs to be put on a strong culture. And what you have in Bowling Green, and is you guys know who you are, you have a strong culture, and it wasn't in Nashville. So you take one of your key components inside this strong culture, convince him, and it took this just says something about Mike, that he was willing to uproot his family for the betterment of the company. Now, obviously, I think he looks at it and goes, man, I've been blessed more than anybody, but you don't know that when you start. You take over a place that you acquired that has had a hard time having success, and you go take this relentless servant leader that understands the value of accountability and affirmation. A lot of people get accountability, which is, you do what I tell you to do, but they forget the celebration and the affirmation. And watching Mike bring in a very young and actually they might be talented, just individuals, but there'd been nothing to make you think they'd had any talent in the sales game. And to watch him come in and systematically love them, systematically lead them, systematically tell them, guys, there are no excuses for us not to accomplish what we're going to do. And then as a group, we really did a great job of focusing on the lead indicators, meaning if you want to sell a lot of business, you got to get in front of a lot of business. So we took the average account size way up and the expectation of number of new business appointments. That's all we ever talked about. Week after week after week, we talked about getting in front of the right size account. And we actually didn't see the number. Andy, I know we would talk about that a lot now and say, guys, Nashville is coming. Nashville's coming, because the numbers weren't there yet. And then all of a sudden, staying focused on that, our skill set got better at closing. And now, Andy, at what point in the year do they typically hit their annual goal?
They may be there already. They're pretty close right now. And we're October to September. So, they're not even halfway through the year yet.
Yeah. And we've been seeing that. And now you're taking that same formula, and I see it moving to Northern Kentucky. I mean, but it all starts with what you've done at the top with this culture of accountability and affirmation. And then Mike took it and executed it in a beautiful way in Nashville. And now there's this, and then in it, we put them in a team, going back to, we're all made to be part of a body, right? And getting everybody in their proper place to grow a team. It's been one of the most amazing runs at a single location I've seen. And I've been doing this, 24 years.
And so much of that has been built around, kind of our next topic. Our next topic is about topics about culture and communication, and really what's built there. And you referenced a bunch of those things that Mike has done in that, and Mike has been an unbelievable component of the organization, because I think it set the standard, and that's spreading across the organization now. But you as well have been an unbelievable portion of that in that, and really have helped guide them down the path. So tell me, how many companies do you deal with on a regular basis, Brian? Or how much exposure have you had to other agencies? How about that? Give us a little background there.
Endless. I mean, again, I've been doing this 24 years, and we also work with firms. I mean, again, Andy, you guys are 100 million, and our smallest client, when we started working with them 6 years ago, they were 1.7. This year they're about 7.5. So this great, success story. But again, we can look at them and go, leadership. I mean, they have this great culture. And so through the years, work, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and thousands upon thousands of producers, all the way from national brokers down to, again, the independent that's just getting started with the $2 million agency, everywhere in between.
You kind of started going this way a little bit, but tell me about let's just talk about communication here, because we're going to go a little bit into authentic leadership next. But what is the common thread you see from a communication perspective? You mentioned leadership as a key factor, the common factor there. But what is it specifically about communication you see from those successful teams and cultures that are there?
Yeah, I think crystal clear communications on expectations, right? Because I think this job is so hard as a new producer. I don't know what success looks like, because what do we track? We have a monthly sales board. And Andy, you said on one call, the average selling cycle for a piece of business is 27 months, which again made sense. 3 renewal cycles, just following the typical plan. So if success is closing a piece of business and the average cycle is 27 months, I mean, how do I keep a young producer motivated and let them know every week whether or not they're doing their job and they're doing it well? We all want to win. And so I think in great cultures, there's clear expectations, and there has to be immediate feedback, right? Guys, I just say this to the people listening on a call with Andy every 2 weeks. Someone can be on a stretch where they're getting 2 and 3 appointments every 2 weeks. And the first time they show up with the zero, Andy wants to stop the call. And he says, okay, what happened there? That's very unlike you. Again, he didn't shame him. He told him, actually, this isn't consistent with who you are. He's holding him to a higher standard. But you know what that does culturally? When someone sees somebody that shows up every week, have done their job, and the 1 week they don't, when the CEO of a $100 million company says, I see you, you're better than that, tell me what happened and what you need to do to make sure it doesn't happen again in 2 weeks. Not only does that young producer understand, wow, every 2 week matters, it also lets you know you're going to get clear feedback. And I think it's always done in a very constructive, encouraging way of telling somebody you're better than that. And then watching, and then the other 17 on the call, Andy, they understand, wow, I don't ever want to be put in those crosshairs. And it just makes everyone show up prepared. And it creates a sense of urgency that is throughout the firm. And again, that would be an example for you guys. But place where it doesn't work, people just let people flounder. And then September, when nothing's happened correctly, we give them feedback like you're doing a bad job. I'm like, I'm 9 months into this. Why is it just now a bad job? I've done the same thing. So the ability to have clear expectations with instant feedback is what creates great cultures.
And I think that that's one of the best things that have really, because we used to have a lot of people fall out or think they couldn't make it. And I think you take that, coupled up with the team environment, you take what Cole Tishner has gone through, you take about Conrad. I mean, you've got all these successes across the organization that have taken that on and turned it into an unbelievable positive. And you talk about huge successes that are out there and exist today. So good stuff. Thank you. And so the next topic I want to talk on here, and this is, the foundation of authentic leadership. Why is that so important, and what challenges we've been able to overcome because of that in what we do? And what do you think those key components that you see from a leadership perspective, from a Houchens Insurance Group perspective, that you see that we apply, and what difference does that make in our culture?
Yeah. Well, you just think about it in life, Andy. Anytime we're around somebody that's not authentic, right? That's not sincere, we just don't trust them, right? And even sometimes I can't put my finger on it. You ever been, you leave something and you go, I can't put my finger on it, but something just doesn't feel right. That's just the discernment in us sniffing out there's something inauthentic about that interaction. And just imagine I'm giving my whole career, my future, my everything my life's going to be off. I'm believing in what the leadership and the management tells me where I'm going. And I can't completely trust you if you're not authentic. And again, it goes back to it's been one of the, if I was to say two things that really step out at me that's unusual in successful firms: authentic leadership that likes to have fun. Right? That's been really, really encouraging to me. There's some authentic people, and you know what they are? They're authentically turds, and all they care about is growing, right? I just don't. And so for me, like, to be authentic truth tellers that like to have fun, and I think it just makes it where everybody in the organization can just trust the direction that you guys are going. And so I know for me as a person of faith and someone that leads a church, at times people will stop being their authentic self, and it really bothers me. Man, your journey is your journey. I don't care what you do. I don't care what you say. I don't care what you drink. I don't care what you eat. I don't care of the joke you tell. None of that bothers me. What I really want is I just want to know the authentic you, because that's the person I want to know and I want to love and I want to engage with. And you guys do it top down. I think about even some of the leaders, just without naming them, sometimes what they'll wear, their traveling companions, that's as real and authentic as it gets.
You and I both have same spiritual beliefs, and we're pretty strong in that, and don't hesitate to share that with others, from our perspective, and give that. But the one thing I take a lot of pride in is we don't push that on anyone. We do that through example and how our testimonies of how it's led in our life from that perspective. But we've also had some unbelievable success stories because of that. And there's nothing more rewarding than seeing some significant change in others' lives outside of the workplace because of the coaching that takes place. A large part of that call that we have on Thursdays is not just about activity and setting expectations and doing those other things, but it's what a real authentic person means in our world, and the values that brings back to it. And I think that the tone of that meeting is why we have such great participation in it from that perspective and feedback. But they participated as much as you and I did. We got it just like we're doing today, but they are as much participants in that and part of that as we get. So I want to commend you for bringing your spiritual life to surface, not only through me, but through what we do on a daily basis, and in a intrusive way into others. So I think that's a big differentiator about who we are, and I think that goes back to alignment about when as the outside world that listens to this. I mean, it's vital to make sure that your partners, not only can they have a great product to sell you and bring you, especially an outsourced version of it, but you got to make sure that they align with the values of your organization. And I think this may have been a little bit more dumb luck. I don't know if it was by design in our stage, but it has truly become a great asset to us in our organization and to all the producers, because wrong or right of it, tough things in life require guidance. And I think that when you have this group that experiences these suck stages, you have to have some greater power to be able to turn to other than just what the world says today, because your numbers may not show it and the results may not show it, but you've got to have confidence in who you are and what you are. So I commend you for what you've been able to bring to the table.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Andy. I think and when you say, hey, we don't push our faith, we're vocal about our faith. And it doesn't matter to me what your faith is, right? Here's what I would say about whatever your faith is in, whatever religion you're in. If you go to church on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, if you go to the synagogue, if you go to the temple, if you go to a chapel, the question is, and this is what we model out 7 days a week, and I say all the time, if your faith, if the book that you're building your life on only works for 3 hours on a Sunday morning, it's not worth giving your life to. Every answer, be it sales, be it leadership, be it parenting, every answer I have in my life comes out of the Bible, because that's my faith. That's what I've put my trust in. And I think what we model out on all of our calls is, what's the foundation for your opinion? What's the foundation? It's not emotionally based. It's like we live our life based upon some kingdom principles, and we believe those kingdom principles apply in everything that we do. And so it's less about faith. I mean, it is, but it's more about the kingdom principles that we build our life on, which then need to apply in business and in parenting and friendships and in everything that we do. And it's proven correct over and over again, which makes us believe in our faith that much more, because these principles continue to work.
Well, and I'll tag on to that. And I think that we spend a lot of time of knowing the why, not just to be successful, not just to write a bunch of business, but what's the why of what we do. And I think that comes back to our core values and beliefs. And that's why it comes out so evidently, is because we are so transparent and authentic in what we do. And I think that if you have the right why, it is everlasting. When you have the wrong why, it's short term and unsatisfying. And that's what we don't want, because we want to build the men and women that are going to be here as retirement and better people because of that, not for short term success that's there. And I genuinely believe that that's why that comes to the surface so easily in our conversation, because we are so transparent and we want others. And I think it's created an environment of transparency.
So I would ask, and Brian, we'll start with you and then Andy, what challenges have you experienced from holding your values and staying true to them? And then what rewards have you experienced as well? So what challenges and what rewards, and how do you move through both of those?
Well, this is going to sound like a terrible answer, but I haven't had any challenges, and some of it is I don't care the response because I don't lead with an agenda. I have no agenda, and I think that's one of the things where faith becomes challenging is people feel like you're trying to manipulate them or control them. I have zero agenda other than for you to know where I'm coming from. And I love you where you are. And there's nothing about you I'm trying to change. And so I think people have experienced religion with a purpose. And our purpose is to love. I mean, if you're doing anything outside of loving people as a follower of Jesus, you're actually missing what he asked us to do. And so that would be the first thing. Because I don't have an agenda in it, I haven't had any blowback. And ultimately, if I did, there's not any contract I would care about that if someone says, hey, we just can't have that change who you are, I wouldn't. I would be okay with it. So even then, I wouldn't see it as blowback. And I think what happens is when people know that you love them, I've had so many times through the years that people have called me because their marriage is disastrous. So they're confessing to me that, man, I'm a closet alcoholic. I say I'm going away on a work trip and I lock myself in a hotel and get drunk for X amount of time, and they'll call me and go, hey, I'm 10 years sober today. So that's probably been the most fulfilling thing to me. When people's life falls apart, they begin to see someone like myself and Andy as just, we show up consistent every week. And then they start going, man, I need that in my life. And so on their own, they'll reach out and we get to have a way to walk them through it. And the other thing, like even our Nashville office says, Brian, when we come to our calls every 2 weeks, we would like for you to talk less about business and more about life. And so that's been really, really fulfilling, is because their question is now, how do I handle all the success we have? And let's make sure that we're rooted in who we are.
Sure. Andy?
So, there's a recent example where someone, and, both of you all know that I put my faith first in my leadership, in that perspective. And somebody recently caught wind of that and told me good luck with that. And man, and I don't know that I've been challenged that many times on it, but it was very motivating. And it took me a little while to figure out why it motivated me. And I'm not saying like it didn't make me mad. It gave me an energy from inside, man. And what I realized quickly is that people don't understand the power of oneness and the truth. And it made me feel sorry for the other people because I know they're missing out on that. My belief is that people in separation make comments like that and that they're yearning for that. And we all have a desire to have a relationship with a greater power. And that only makes me say, hey, I need to speak stronger more often because other people are hearing that. And I want people to understand that first and foremost, it's got to be authentic. It's got to be true in what they see. And if I'm not that, then I want to be struck down, to be honest with you. But I do. I mean, that just, yeah. But I want people to see that because I want people to have that. And it makes me sad for others. And I think, this goes to a whole other realm of things. This gets more worldly than business related, but it all is very applicable in what we do. And you look, what makes us special as an organization? Genuinely, it's oneness. We all feel together. We feel like we're working for a common purpose. And it just happens to be that our spirituality is a big portion of that and who makes us up who we are. And I think that makes me more proud than anything from that perspective. And I think that's why we speak it so faithfully. And I have such a testament in my life that I know is not arguable, that nobody can tell me. I've seen it firsthand. Brian mentioned, examples of people that have come to us and broken. And those people have turned around to be some of our best. And honestly, and Brian, I hope you don't take this wrong, but man, that's one of the reasons why Brian is one of my favorite people to deal with, is because he's seen rock bottom. He's been in a bad place. He had 15 years of searching who that was and what he needed to be, and he authentically knows who he is. And honestly, I see people as broken today as opportunities, and I see that as producers, as business, as men. And how do we really give them the tools in order to be able to do that? So I take no offense to somebody pushing back at me on that, other than the fact you cannot argue with what God's done in my life and what he's done with people around because of that. And I take no responsibility in that at all, other than the fact that he's using me as a tool. In closing, I'll give a shout out to Blueprint and what they've done for us as an organization. Brian and I's relationship started off as more of an individual relationship, but they've grown as an organization. They continue to make a huge impact to us. Matter of fact, we've launched EOS inside of our organization and utilizing them as a tool to do that. But they have continued to bring additional value inside of our organization, and that's truly what you want in partnerships in life. And although he's not an employee of ours, he is definitely part of the family, and along with his organization. So, Brian, thanks for everything you do, and appreciate you.